Princess Lysara paced the length of her private chambers, the polished floors echoing her every step. Sunlight, pale and soft through the high-arched windows, fell on her long silver hair and the flowing silk of her gown. She could hear the distant murmur of the palace staff preparing for the upcoming ceremony, a grand event meant to secure an alliance through her marriage. She hated it. Every second of it felt like a chain tightening around her wrists. The Zelari court had long planned her future, deciding that her hand in marriage could secure peace, wealth, and influence, but they had never once asked what she wanted. Lysara's heart beat faster as the thought of the marriage crept into her mind. The alien lord she was meant to marry was powerful, cunning, and feared throughout the sector. He had charm, yes, but it was the cold, calculating kind that gave her chills. She could not imagine spending her life obeying someone she neither loved nor trusted. Her people called her strong, and yet here she was, trapped by duty. A knock at the door startled her. "Enter," she said sharply, composing herself. The door opened, and her aide, Maris, stepped in carrying a tablet filled with last-minute instructions. "Princess," Maris said softly, "the human delegation has arrived. They will be joining the opening ceremony in half an hour." The Zelari generally looked down on humans. They were considered weak, reckless, and far too emotional to manage real power. She had expected small, polite, and easily impressed creatures, and yet there was a hint of curiosity in her chest she did not recognize. "Thank you, Maris," she said, turning back to the windows. She watched the palace gardens, immaculately maintained, and the fountains glinting in the sunlight. Something about the humans intrigued her. Perhaps it was the way the Zelari always underestimated them. By the time she arrived at the grand hall, the air was thick with the scent of polished metal and exotic flowers. Courtiers from multiple systems whispered among themselves, their gazes flicking toward the human delegation at the far end of the room. Lysara's eyes, however, were drawn to a single figure at the edge of the group, a human woman with a calm but confident presence. She stood taller than most humans she had heard of and carried herself in a way that suggested she was used to leading. Her uniform was simple but neat, and her eyes were sharp and alert, observing everything without panic. Lysara's chest tightened slightly. Something about this woman, felt different. The Zelari elite would never have imagined that humans could command attention through presence alone, without flashing wealth or status. The ceremony began with the usual pomp. Lysara performed her duties with grace, bowing and smiling at the dignitaries, while the humans observed quietly, speaking only when necessary. The alien lord arrived, and Lysara immediately felt a cold weight settle over her. He was as she remembered, tall with dark, gleaming eyes that seemed to pierce through her thoughts. He smiled at her with practiced charm, but it failed to reach his eyes. Then the first problem arose. A large projection device meant to display the ceremony to diplomats in other star systems flickered and sputtered, threatening to shut down entirely. Gasps echoed in the hall. A technician scrambled at the control panel, clearly panicked. Lysara's stomach tightened. A failed ceremony could embarrass the royal house and give her unwanted suitor even more leverage. Before she could step forward, the human woman, the one standing quietly at the back, moved with a confidence that surprised everyone. Without hesitation, she strode to the device and knelt before it, inspecting the tangled wires. Her fingers moved quickly, connecting circuits in ways Lysara could barely follow. She spoke softly to herself, calculating, testing, adjusting. The alien lord's brow furrowed. "This is unnecessary," he muttered, clearly intending to dismiss her. But the humans ignored him, focused entirely on the problem. Within moments, the device hummed to life, its lights steady and clear. The hall erupted in murmurs of astonishment. Lysara felt her heart leap. She had been raised to see humans as fragile, unprepared, and limited, yet here was living proof that at least some of them were far more capable than she, or the Zelari elite, had assumed. She realized she was staring at them, unable to look away. The woman had not only fixed the problem, but had done so with calm precision, unshaken by the eyes of an entire court. For the first time, Lysara questioned everything she had been taught. Were humans truly weak, or had the Zelari simply misunderstood them? The ceremony continued, but Lysara's attention never wavered. She watched as the humans handled each minor crisis with clarity and ingenuity. When a decorative hover tray began to spin out of control, one of the humans leaped forward, catching it with a surprising grace. When a communication link faltered, another human swiftly repaired it using tools that seemed improvised yet effective. Each action earned quiet admiration from the onlookers, though few openly acknowledged it. Lysara's own advisor, a stern Zelari noble named Rithel, leaned toward her and whispered, "Do not be distracted by them. Humans are clever only by luck, nothing more." The calmness in her eyes, the careful observation, and the quick, decisive actions told Lysara something no advisor could. Humans were not merely clever by chance. They had resilience, intuition, and a capacity to act under pressure that even the Zelari could not match. As the ceremony ended and the dignitaries moved to their designated places, Lysara found herself compelled to approach the humans. She kept her distance, unsure of what to say but unable to ignore the magnetism of their presence. "Captain Alara," she heard one of her aides whisper, "the human leader of the delegation. They say she has handled emergencies no Zelari could solve." The alien lord she was meant to marry approached then, his expression masking his own astonishment. "Impressive," he said, his voice low, almost reluctantly, "for a human." Lysara realized, with growing excitement, that perhaps the humans were not to be controlled, they were to be respected. As the human delegation departed for a briefing room, Lysara followed at a cautious distance. She needed to understand more. She needed to see if this remarkable human capability extended beyond small emergencies, beyond clever improvisation. She wanted to see if humans could stand against the rigid expectations and oppressive control of the Zelari elite. And as she walked, Lysara felt a spark she had never known in the palace. A hope that perhaps the world could be different. A hope that she herself could be different. For the first time, she wondered if defiance was not only possible but necessary. And if humans were the key to that defiance, then she would watch them closely. Perhaps they could teach her something the Zelari had never understood, that true strength did not come from status or birthright. It came from courage, intelligence, and the will to act. Alara, unaware of the princess's gaze, continued her work with quiet efficiency, but Lysara's mind buzzed with possibilities. She could no longer see humans as weak. They were unpredictable, capable, and startlingly brilliant in ways that the Zelari court could not anticipate. And Lysara realized, with a thrill that made her pulse quicken, that her life might never be the same again. The following morning, the palace was alive with preparation. Courtiers hurried through marble halls, carrying documents and decorative elements for the formal diplomatic meetings. Princess Lysara moved quietly among them, her mind far from the ceremonial duties she was meant to perform. Her thoughts were filled with humans, particularly the captain who had captured her attention the previous day. She had spent the night replaying the scenes in her mind. The way the human had assessed problems without hesitation, the calm way she acted while others panicked. It had been unlike anything Lysara had ever seen in the Zelari elite. There was a cleverness in humanity, she realized, that came not from tradition, influence, or manipulation, but from something deeper, something instinctive and powerful. Lysara's curiosity grew stronger when she learned that the humans had requested a private tour of the palace before attending the formal talks. She decided to follow them at a distance. She wanted to see more of their capabilities firsthand, without the distractions of court politics. Alara, the human captain, led the delegation through the palace with efficiency and quiet confidence. She did not seem overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the alien architecture, the high ceilings, or the massive tapestries depicting generations of Zelari rulers. Instead, she moved with purpose, observing every detail as if each object could provide insight or advantage. Lysara's steps faltered. The princess had been trained her entire life to see humans as limited and fragile, yet here was one who approached a palace designed to intimidate with calm, careful observation. When the group entered the archives, a massive room filled with holographic data crystals and floating libraries, a minor problem arose. One of the data terminals flickered and refused to open the requested information. The human delegation stopped, looking at each other briefly, then Alara stepped forward. "Let me try," she said simply. Lysara held her breath. This was a space no human had ever touched without guidance, and yet Alara moved with confidence. She pressed a few keys, adjusted a minor energy conduit, and within seconds the terminal responded, displaying the requested historical records in perfect clarity. A murmur rose from some of the Zelari staff accompanying the humans. One muttered, "How can they do this so easily? This should take weeks of training." There was no arrogance in her gaze, only focus and quiet assurance. Lysara felt something shift inside her. She had been raised to see humans as unpredictable and weak, but this human, This captain was calm, adaptable, and intelligent in a way that defied all Zelari assumptions. The humans continued their tour, asking questions, making observations, and occasionally suggesting ways to optimize palace operations. Lysara watched, fascinated. Every action revealed not only intelligence but creativity, a skill she realized her own court rarely encouraged. The humans seemed to think outside the rigid hierarchies of the Zelari, seeing solutions where others saw only rules and limitations. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sharp sound from the outer courtyard. Lysara looked out the window to see a small hover transport spiraling out of control. A maintenance crew ran after it, clearly struggling to prevent it from crashing into the ceremonial gardens. Without hesitation, Alara stepped outside, followed by a few members of her delegation. Lysara's pulse quickened. The hover transport was heavy, large enough to cause damage or injury. The Zelari would usually send their best-trained personnel, but here was a human stepping forward without fear. From her vantage point, Lysara watched as Alara directed her team, assessing the situation quickly. She issued commands calmly, moving with precision and confidence. When the transport tilted dangerously, she leaped forward, grabbing a stabilizing harness and signaling her team to adjust the hover field. Within moments, the transport hovered safely above the ground, and the crew followed her instructions without question. The crowd that had gathered, including some of Lysara's advisors, gasped and then fell silent. No one had expected a human to take control with such authority and competence. Even the alien lord she was supposed to marry, standing nearby, furrowed his brow. His expression held a mixture of disbelief and unease. Lysara felt her chest tighten with an unfamiliar excitement. Humans, she realized, were not just clever in controlled situations. They could act decisively in moments of danger when others might hesitate. And they did so without arrogance, without seeking praise, and without fear. The rest of the day passed with more demonstrations of human capability. During a diplomatic briefing, a minor technical failure threatened to miscommunicate vital information between star systems. While the Zelari delegates panicked, Alara calmly rerouted the data, improvising with a few portable devices and restoring the link without error. Lysara watched as the alien lord's confident demeanor faltered. He had assumed humans could be ignored or underestimated, but every action revealed the opposite. By evening, the humans were invited to a private dinner with the Zelari elite. Lysara attended, ostensibly as part of her royal duties, but her mind remained focused on observing them. She noticed the way they interacted, respectfully yet without subservience. They questioned politely yet confidently, presenting ideas that were practical and creative. Lysara had expected awkwardness, uncertainty, and fear, yet she saw none of it. The alien lord, growing impatient, attempted to assert control during the discussion. He spoke with force, expecting submission. Instead, Alara calmly responded, offering logical solutions and explanations. Her words were precise, her tone steady. The Zelari elite exchanged glances, surprised at the humans' composure under pressure. Lysara felt a surge of admiration. She realized that the humans were not trying to dominate. They were demonstrating capability, showing that their intelligence and courage could not be dismissed. And in doing so, they made her question her own beliefs, the ones instilled in her since childhood. Later, when the dinner concluded, Lysara found herself walking behind the humans as they returned to their quarters. She wanted to understand more about their perspective, their methods, and their courage. Perhaps there was something she could learn from them, not only about humans but about herself. Alara noticed her at the edge of the corridor and offered a polite nod. Lysara hesitated, then returned it, her heart racing. She had never felt such an unusual mixture of curiosity, respect, and something like inspiration toward another being. "What is it about them?" Lysara asked her aide Maris quietly after the humans had passed. Maris shrugged. "They are different, Princess. Humans have qualities the Zelari rarely see. They act with independence and resolve, but without arrogance. They solve problems others think impossible. Some say they are fragile, but I think they are underestimated." Her mind lingered on the day's events. The failed projection device, the hover transport, the diplomatic briefing, and the quiet, confident command of the human captain. Each moment had challenged everything she had learned about humans. That night, Lysara could not sleep. She wandered the palace gardens, staring at the stars above. The distant planets shimmered like jewels, a reminder of the vastness of the universe, and of how small her own life had felt under the weight of expectations. But after watching humans act with courage, creativity, and intelligence, she felt a flicker of hope. She realized that the future need not be dictated solely by the Zelari elite, by tradition, or by fear. Humans had shown her that strength came in many forms, not only from power or authority, but from adaptability, ingenuity, and courage. And if humans could act this way in a strange and foreign place, perhaps she could too. Lysira returned to her chambers as the moon rose above the palace. She looked at herself in the polished silver mirror, her reflection pale and thoughtful. The princess who had once felt trapped and powerless now felt a spark of determination. Perhaps she could find a way to shape her own destiny, inspired by the humans she had come to admire. Ilara and her team were still awake, preparing for the following day's events. Lysira watched them from a distance, seeing the quiet teamwork and mutual respect they shared. It was unlike anything in the Zelari court, where hierarchy and expectation often stifled creativity. The humans trusted each other, adapted quickly, and acted with courage that seemed to flow naturally. For the first time in her life, Lysira thought not of duty, not of obligation, but of possibility. Humans had shown her a path she had never considered, a path where intelligence, courage, and independence could change the course of events. And she felt a growing desire to explore it, even if it meant defying centuries of expectation. As she finally lay down to sleep, her thoughts remained on the human captain. The spark of admiration had grown into something stronger, a recognition that humanity, underestimated as it was, could inspire even a princess of the Zelari dominion. And if humans could do so much in a single day, Lysira wondered what could happen if she dared to act alongside them. For the first time in her life, she felt that she was no longer entirely a pawn. The next morning, the palace was filled with a tense energy. Courtiers moved quickly, preparing for the formal challenges that were to test the human delegation. The Zelari elite had decided that, before any alliances could be considered, humans needed to prove themselves not just in diplomacy, but in skill, strategy, and endurance. For the Zelari, it was a chance to reinforce their belief that humans were fragile and easily overwhelmed. For Princess Lysira, it was an opportunity to see if the humans could truly rise to the occasion. The humans arrived at the central training grounds, a vast open space filled with advanced equipment, obstacle courses, and tactical simulations. The alien Lord Lysira was meant to marry stood at the edge, arms crossed, radiating confidence. He had carefully arranged the challenges, certain that humans would fail spectacularly, embarrassed by their own limits. Ilara stepped forward calmly, assessing the course with a quick scan. She instructed her team in a series of warm-up exercises, simple movements to loosen their muscles and sharpen their reflexes. Lysira observed from the balcony above, her curiosity growing with every step. Humans were physically weaker than Zelari, yes, but there was something in the way they moved, thought, and coordinated that suggested far more than raw strength. The first challenge began, a complex obstacle course designed to test agility, coordination, and endurance. The Zelari participants moved with precision, gliding over walls and swinging across platforms with practiced grace. The humans followed, slower at first, but Ilara's guidance helped them adapt quickly. She offered gentle adjustments and encouragement, turning hesitation into confidence. Lysira was fascinated. Every time a human seemed likely to fall behind, Ilara found a way to use the environment creatively, enabling them to succeed where brute strength alone would not suffice. One human vaulted over a wide gap using a clever combination of momentum and timing, earning impressed murmurs from the onlooking Zelari. The alien lord's expression darkened slightly. He had expected humans to falter, yet each success, small though it was, began to chip away at his certainty. Lysira noticed the subtle tension in his posture and felt a thrill she had never expected. Humans were not merely surviving, they were learning, adapting, and excelling under pressure. The next test was a tactical simulation, designed to mimic a hostile planetary invasion. The humans were divided into teams and given limited resources. The Zelari, confident in their superiority, assumed humans would follow rigid instructions or crumble under pressure. Ilara's strategy was simple but brilliant. She assessed the terrain and her team's strengths, then divided tasks efficiently, assigning roles based on skill rather than tradition. The Zelari participants, observing from above, expected chaos, yet the humans moved with coordination and intelligence that seemed almost instinctive. Lysira's admiration grew with every passing minute. The humans did not simply react. They anticipated, improvised, and communicated silently through subtle gestures. They found ways to overcome obstacles that the Zelari had not predicted, using clever distractions, terrain manipulation, and quick problem-solving. At one point, a simulated attack forced a human team to retreat to a narrow passage. A Zelari observer whispered, "They'll never hold that position." But Alara saw opportunity. She instructed her team to create makeshift barricades and set clever traps. When the Zelari adversaries advanced, they were caught off guard by unexpected maneuvers, allowing the humans to counterattack effectively. Lysara felt her chest tighten with awe. The humans were demonstrating something far beyond physical skill: ingenuity, adaptability, and courage under pressure. They were not just clever, they were exceptional in a way that challenged everything she had been taught about the galaxy's hierarchy. The alien lord, growing frustrated, attempted to impose stricter control, moving his own forces to overwhelm the humans. Yet every move he made was anticipated and countered. Alara's leadership shone as she directed her team with calm authority, turning apparent weaknesses into advantages. The humans were not only surviving, they were thriving. Lysara descended from the balcony and moved closer to the field. She could hardly believe what she was witnessing. Her mind raced with possibilities. If humans were capable of this much in controlled tests, what might they achieve in real situations, where creativity, courage, and quick thinking mattered more than rank or raw power? The challenges continued, escalating in difficulty. Humans were tested with puzzles requiring complex logic, machines that demanded rapid technical fixes, and scenarios simulating real-world dangers. Each time, Alara guided her team with patience and insight, encouraging collaboration and inventive thinking. The humans made mistakes, but they learned from them instantly, adapting with remarkable speed. By mid-afternoon, Lysara could see the alien lord's frustration mounting. His confidence, once absolute, now showed cracks. The humans had demonstrated not only capability, but a spirit the Zelari rarely acknowledged: resilience. They had been underestimated at every turn, yet they kept rising, adjusting, and succeeding. Lysara's own feelings grew conflicted. The humans' courage and intelligence inspired her, yet she felt a pang of guilt. She had spent her life following rules, avoiding confrontation, and suppressing her own desires. Watching humans act with bravery and independence, she realized how much of herself she had denied. During a brief rest period, Lysara approached the humans cautiously. Alara looked up from adjusting a piece of equipment and offered a polite nod. Lysara hesitated, then spoke, her voice low but firm. "You handle these challenges remarkably," she said. "I have never seen anything like it. We decide what to do next based on it." The final challenge of the day was the most difficult: a timed trial requiring humans to navigate a simulated disaster scenario, rescue stranded civilians, and stabilize volatile energy fields. The alien lord's forces had long trained for such tasks, confident no human could keep up. Alara studied the simulation carefully, analyzing risks and calculating solutions in seconds. She directed her team efficiently, delegating tasks and improvising when unexpected obstacles appeared. The humans moved with coordination and focus, saving every simulated civilian and stabilizing the energy fields with precision. Lysara's heart pounded. She had never imagined witnessing anything like this. The humans were not only matching the Zelari in skill, they were surpassing expectations at every turn. When the simulation ended, a tense silence fell over the training grounds. Even the alien lord, his face pale with frustration, could not deny the humans' achievement. Lysara stepped forward, feeling a thrill she had never known. She began, voice shaking slightly. "They are extraordinary." She had seen what the Zelari could not, the spirit that refused to yield even in the face of overwhelming odds. The alien lord, finally recovering his composure, approached Alara. "You have exceeded expectations," he said, his tone reluctant. "But this does not change anything. You are still humans. We do what we must, and we succeed because we must." As the day ended, Lysara followed the humans back to their quarters once again, her mind filled with questions and possibilities. She felt a spark of determination, a desire to explore, to learn, and perhaps to act. For the first time, she considered defiance, not rebellion against her people, but defiance of expectation. Humans had shown her that courage, intelligence, and resourcefulness mattered more than obedience or birthright. That night, Lysara could not sleep. She walked through the quiet palace gardens, staring at the stars above, thinking of the humans and the lessons they had unwittingly taught her. She realized that the Zelari had been blind in their assumptions. Humans were clever, brave, and adaptable, and Lysara herself felt a new sense of courage blossoming. The human captain, Alara, had proven not only skill but character. She had inspired Lysara in ways no Zelari tutor or advisor ever had. The princess felt a shift within herself, a recognition that her life could be different, that she could choose a path guided by insight, courage, and independence. As the palace slept, Lysara stood beneath the moonlight, her thoughts filled with humans and the possibilities they represented. She felt hope for the first time in her life, not hope for duty or obligation, but hope for freedom for action, and for the chance to embrace the courage she had always suppressed. She understood that humans were more than allies. They were a mirror, showing her what was possible. And she resolved that when the time came, she would not remain a passive observer. She would act, inspired by the humans who had dared to defy expectation and demonstrate the strength of their spirit. For the first time, Princess Lysara felt that the future might belong not to tradition or fear, but to courage, intelligence, and the audacity to rise above expectation. The morning sun rose over the capital, casting long shadows across the palace walls. Princess Lysara woke with a sense of anticipation she had never felt before. The previous days had changed her perception of humans entirely, and today promised a new challenge, one she suspected would show their true strength. Rumors had spread through the palace that a rogue faction had been spotted near the outskirts of the city. They were a dangerous group, unpredictable, and armed with advanced technology stolen from various systems. The Zelari elite had dismissed them as a minor nuisance, confident that the palace and its guards could easily repel any threat. Lysara, however, remembered the humans' ingenuity, their ability to adapt, and their courage under pressure. She wondered how they would respond if the danger were real, not simulated. The thought made her pulse quicken. By mid-morning, a loud alarm echoed through the palace. The rogue faction had breached the outer defenses, targeting communication hubs and attempting to create panic among the citizens. Courtiers and guards rushed to their posts, their voices frantic. The alien lord she was supposed to marry strode confidently through the halls, issuing orders with authority. He expected obedience, efficiency, and results. He assumed humans would panic or falter under pressure. Alara, standing calmly with her team, assessed the situation quickly. "This is not a drill," she said softly to her delegation. "We need to stabilize key points, protect civilians, and contain the threat. Follow my lead." They anticipated movements, created safe paths for civilians, and neutralized hazards before they could escalate. The alien lord's confident expression faltered as he observed their actions. "They will not last," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. Yet the humans continued with calm determination, turning apparent weaknesses into advantages. Lysara felt a mixture of admiration and excitement. Humans were not only surviving, they were leading, adapting, and inspiring those around them. Even Zelari soldiers hesitated, unsure of how to respond to tactics so unorthodox yet effective. At one point, a group of rogue attackers breached the inner walls of the palace, aiming for a critical energy core. The Zelari guards panicked, but Alara acted immediately. She assessed the pathways, calculated the risks, and instructed her team to create diversions while stabilizing the energy core. Using clever tools and improvised methods, the humans neutralized the threat without allowing the attackers to reach their target. Lysara's chest tightened as she watched. She had grown up believing the Zelari were the pinnacle of strategy and skill, yet these humans, unexpected, underestimated, and called fragile, were outmaneuvering even the most experienced soldiers of the palace. The alien lord, frustrated and embarrassed, attempted to intervene directly. He ordered an attack on the humans' position, confident that brute force would succeed. But Alara anticipated this. She redirected her team, using the environment to their advantage. When the Zelari troops advanced, they were caught in unexpected traps and carefully calculated countermoves. Within minutes, the humans had not only defended themselves but secured a critical corridor, allowing other Zelari forces to regroup safely. Lysara's mind raced. Every action of the humans revealed qualities the Zelari elite had never acknowledged: courage, ingenuity, and teamwork. She realized that she herself had been limited by fear and tradition. Watching humans act with clarity and resolve, she felt a surge of inspiration and possibility. The palace communications crackled with reports of rogue activity throughout the city. Ilara divided her team into squads, assigning critical points of intervention while personally leading the most dangerous operation, neutralizing a group attempting to breach the city's energy hub. Lysara followed closely, unsure of whether to intervene or simply observe. She felt a thrill unlike anything she had experienced in court life, the kind of thrill that came from witnessing true courage in action. The humans approached the energy hub cautiously. Sensors had been tampered with, and the attackers had set traps to slow any responders. While Zelari soldiers would have charged forward, Ilara studied the environment, calculated safe paths, and instructed her team on how to disarm traps efficiently. With minimal risk, they reached the core and secured it, preventing catastrophic failure. Lysara held her breath as the final rogue attackers attempted a last desperate maneuver. They expected chaos, confusion, and panic, but humans thrived in this environment. Ilara coordinated a perfectly timed counter using both strategy and improvisation. When the dust settled, the attackers were neutralized and the city remained safe. The alien lord approached, his face pale with disbelief. He had expected humans to falter at the first real threat, yet they had not only survived, they had succeeded where trained Zelari soldiers might have failed. Lysara stepped forward, feeling a mixture of exhilaration and awe. They did it, she said softly, almost to herself. They really did it. It is not impossible, it is a choice. The rogue faction was contained, and the city's system stabilized, thanks largely to the humans' quick thinking and leadership. Citizens emerged from shelters, eyes wide with gratitude and surprise. Even the Zelari elite, who had once scorned humans as fragile and limited, found themselves unable to deny the reality. Humans were extraordinary. Lysara walked among the humans, observing them quietly. She saw their teamwork, their quick problem-solving, and the quiet confidence that had guided every decision. Ilara, in particular, moved with calm authority, guiding her team without intimidation or arrogance. She was not only capable, she was inspiring. As the immediate threat passed, the alien lord, furious and humiliated, attempted to reassert control. "This changes nothing," he said, voice tight. "Humans are still limited. They do not belong in positions of influence here." Humans were not merely survivors. They were innovators, leaders, and exemplars of courage. They had faced a real threat and emerged victorious through intelligence, creativity, and teamwork. And Lysara realized something profound. Humanity's value could not be measured by assumptions or prejudice. That evening, the palace was quiet once more, the city safe and stable. Lysara walked through the gardens, reflecting on the events of the day. She thought of Ilara, of the humans' courage, and of the way they had defied expectation. She realized that she herself had been constrained by fear, tradition, and the belief that power came only from authority or birthright. Humans had shown her a different path, one guided by action, courage, and intelligence. Lysara's mind was filled with new possibilities. She could no longer see humans as fragile or limited. They were unpredictable in the best way possible, capable of reshaping circumstances through ingenuity and determination. She felt a stirring within her, a desire to embrace courage, to think creatively, and to act decisively, inspired by the humans she had come to admire. In the quiet of the palace, Lysara approached Ilara, who was overseeing the final status reports from the humans' operations. "You've done more than I expected," Lysara said softly. "Not just fixing problems, but showing what humans are truly capable of. We act with what we have, and we do what must be done. Others may doubt us, but that does not matter. If humans could act with such courage and intelligence, so could she." As the stars began to shine above the palace, Lysara reflected on the humans' achievements. They had faced danger, outsmarted opponents, and preserved life through quick thinking and teamwork. They had turned every challenge into an opportunity, every threat into a triumph. And in doing so, they had awakened something within her, a recognition that strength, courage, and intelligence could overcome any obstacle. The rogue faction was defeated, but the lessons remained. Lysara understood that humans were more than allies. They were examples of what determination, ingenuity, and courage could accomplish. And she felt a stirring within her, a desire to embrace these qualities herself, to act with confidence, and to redefine what was possible, not only for herself but for her people. For the first time, Princess Lysara felt that true strength was not measured by rank, birthright, or authority. It was measured by courage, intelligence, and the will to act, even in the face of overwhelming odds. And in that moment, she resolved that she would no longer be a pawn of expectation. She would act, inspired by the humans who had proven themselves and by the spark of courage now burning within her. The palace council chamber was full for the first time since the attack. Representatives from many systems stood in quiet groups, speaking in low voices. The air felt heavy, not with fear this time, but with expectation. Everyone knew something important was about to happen. Princess Lysara stood at the center of the chamber, her posture straight, her expression calm. She did not feel calm inside, but she felt ready. The alien lord she was meant to marry stood nearby, his confidence damaged but not gone. He believed tradition would still protect him. The council had arranged this union long before the humans arrived. He expected the princess to obey, as she always had. Across the chamber stood Alara and the human delegation. They were quiet, not trying to draw attention. They did not need to. Their actions over the past days had already spoken loudly enough. The High Counselor raised his staff, and the chamber fell silent. "We are gathered," he said, "to finalize the alliance agreement and the royal marriage that will seal it." She remembered Alara's steady voice, the teamwork, the courage. The fear faded. She stepped forward. "I object," Lysara said. A wave of shock moved through the chamber. Voices rose, then stopped as the High Counselor lifted his staff again. The alien lord turned toward her, eyes wide with anger and disbelief. "You will explain yourself," the counselor said sharply. Lysara took a breath. Her voice was steady. "This marriage was arranged to secure peace, but peace built on control and silence is not peace, it is fear. I have seen what true strength looks like. They work together without pride or cruelty. Choice." No Zelari princess had ever spoken those words. Before the council could respond, an alarm sounded short and sharp. A guard rushed in and knelt. "Report," the counselor demanded. "A final group of rogue ships has appeared near the outer orbit," the guard said. "They are attempting to disable the defense grid." "Send the fleet." "You expect us to trust humans again." Instead of meeting force with force, they used timing, misdirection, and precision. Lysara watched from the command platform. She understood now. Humans did not seek control, they sought solutions. Within minutes, the rogue ships retreated, unable to penetrate the defenses. The threat ended without loss. Silence filled the chamber again, deeper than before. The High Counselor exhaled slowly. "The humans have once again succeeded." The council withdrew to deliberate. Lysara waited, her heart steady. Alara stood nearby, offering quiet support without words. When the council returned, the High Counselor spoke. "The marriage is dissolved," he announced. "The alliance will be restructured. Humanity will be recognized as equal partners." Around the chamber, reactions were mixed: shock, anger, relief, but none spoke against the decision. The alien lord left without a word. Later that evening, the palace gardens were quiet. Lysara walked beneath the stars, the weight of centuries lifted from her shoulders. Alara joined her, hands clasped behind her back. "You changed your world today," Alara said. Lysara shook her head gently. "No. You showed me how." Joint training programs began. Human engineers worked alongside Zelari scientists. Old assumptions faded, replaced by cautious respect. Stories spread across the stars, of humans who faced danger calmly, of a princess who chose courage over tradition, of a civilization that learned too late that humanity was never weak, only underestimated. Lysara addressed her people for the first time not as a symbol, but as a leader. "We will move forward," she said, "not bound by fear, but guided by wisdom. We will learn, adapt, and grow together." Alara approached, offering a respectful nod. "Our paths will cross again," Alara said. "I believe they will," Lysara replied. "The galaxy is changing." She had opposed the marriage, and in doing so, she had found her voice, her strength, and a future built on respect. Far beyond the palace walls, among the stars, one truth became clear to all who watched humanity closely.